It's the Gretzky episode 99.
The ultimate deck podcast. Need a show about outdoor living? This is where it's at with your hosts Shane Chapman and Way Laurent. Thank you for tuning in. Now let the show begin. Yeah, the ultimate deck podcast. Let's go.
Episode 99. Did you ever think we'd get here, Wade, when we started this thing?
No. No, I didn't. No.
Flat out, nope. I thought episode 4, and then it'd peter off.
Not a knock on us, but we don't see a ton of stuff through. You know what I mean?
Whoa. It depends on your perspective.
Yeah.
I mean, you do have 2 stores now.
Right. Saw that through. Have you ever had a 99, a Gretzky from Tim Hortons?
No.
What?
What are you talking about?
Oh my God, am I the only one that knows
9
about this?
cream, 9 sugar?
Yeah. Nope. Go to Tim Hortons.
We should have done that
and
today.
Order a Gretzky. I've never had it either, but I know about it.
The worst thing I ever saw was someone get a French vanilla with 3 cream and 3 sugar.
Ugh. That's terrible.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Gretzky's a thing. You can order a Gretzky and they will give you 9 cream, 9 sugar.
Okay, let's do
99.
that today.
Do it today.
Yeah, let's get that done.
We should sample that next podcast. I guess 101 will have to be like,
What do you?
try different types of coffees from like different places. 99s, Gretzky's.
99s.
It'd be hard to get it at 100. Won't be able to do the Gretzky at the 100th podcast.
That's true.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody knows about it. So
No, it's a well-kept secret. Today we're talking about helical piles and 5 reasons why you should do them and 3 reasons why you might not want to do them.
Are we just getting right into this? Is
whoa.
sub 2 minutes and you're going to start talking
can't.
about this stuff?
No, I was just kind of leading up to... I know you want to get this thing kicked off. And
let's do this.
Figured we wouldn't waste time today. But
okay.
So before we get to the worldly news, Quigley posted... Did you see that post? Did you take...
No, I didn't
Okay, I'll talk about it then.
You talk about it.
Quigley Deck submitted his own worldly news to us today. It was a story about a rat.
What?
Okay.
So the worldly news is taken off. We're getting input. There's a story about a rat, and I forget what country it is, but the rat was just awarded a gold medal, or whatever the distinction was.
Sounds like Russia.
For...
Malaysia.
He's a landmine rat. He's a rat that they've trained to detect landmines. And he has successfully detected, what was it? I think 29 landmines and 25 like unexploded munitions, whatever those are, some other type of explosive. So this rat has been responsible for finding
IEDs?
and allowing them to detonate or safely remove over 50 landmines.
Wow.
How isn't he dead?
Because he knows to not step on them.
He's a gold star rat, Bryce.
I mean,
he's not just any rat.
They do get out of rat traps pretty easily.
They do. They're smart. Work. Rats are smart.
Rats are smart.
So anyways.
And tasty.
What? I don't know about that.
Gross. Is it Scott that is AE Carpentry? Is that who that is? Is that his name? Scott? Did I get that right? AE Carpentry out of Saskatoon? No, it's Mike, right?
I was like, Scott is Precision Construction.
Yeah.
So confused there. I was like,
yeah, no, Scott's Precision.
That's I was off my game today, but I was like, he's like full blown dementia.
He's just saying names now.
Yeah. He's never had coffee before in his life.
Holy smokes. That's why you're looking at that.
He's never had coffee?
Mike, yeah, I was right. I knew it was.
No,
I was
you weren't right.
No, I said Scott, and then I was like, wait, no, it's not Scott, it's Mike. Yeah, it was Mike. Yeah.
You eventually came around to right, but not before offending him.
Yeah. At least I didn't call him like Peter or something. You know what I mean? That's a way worse name.
Great. Now we're gonna have a Peter in here too. I almost stuck my foot. I almost stuck my foot in my mouth yesterday. Actually, I kind of did put it in my mouth, but I think I clawed it back pretty well. So a guy came in to buy some Q-Tech stain there, and he was like, he ran out in the middle of doing the fence, and so he came back in yesterday because we got it back in. He picked up the 4 gallons and. He's like, yeah, now I have to just kind of pick up where I left off and hope everything matches, whatever. I was like, oh, it should be fine. So on and so forth. I was like, this one time, though, this guy came in here. It was him. And I forgot it was him. And I was like,
no.
Yeah, I was like, oh, this will be fine. But we had this one guy come in here, and he wanted to mix and match Mesmers with, and then right at that moment, when I said, I was like, I think this is him. I was like, wait, that was you. And then I have to like play it down. And I was like, that was you, right? And he's like, yeah, that was me. And I was like, yeah. I mean,
what a crazy idea.
It could have worked, but I just
might work.
So anyway, whoops. Yeah, so cool rat story. Now we got this. Just so you know, Mom, I'm working on something very, very big, very important. You're going to be very proud. It's the worldly news. While he's pulling that up, though, Mike is saying coffee's gross. I was wondering, like, he's a pretty big gym rat, I think. I was wondering if that was like a healthy choice. That he just doesn't like, I don't know, diuretic drugs in his drinks or something. But sounds like just doesn't like the taste of it. So I never used to either until I had an office job. When I started working at SaskTel, and it was like, no, that's what you do here now. You go to Tim Hortons and you get coffee at your desk. You don't.
That's because you were trying to find out how to get away from the desk. It's an excuse to leave.
100%. 100%.
We work construction. Like, you don't need an excuse to get away from the desk. You're outside.
Yeah.
Yep.
So anyways, I started then. I went from drinking no coffee to the point now that in our business of 12 people, I'm the one that people make fun of the most for drinking so much coffee.
You drink 12 coffees.
Yeah. Like there's days I'll have 3 extra large coffees.
I've come around and like I used to drink double doubles, and then it was down to like regular 1 cream, 1 sugar, and now I'm just like black coffee.
Yeah, you made the leap to black. Every once in a while I'm forced to have black. Not forced. Every once in a while coffee shows up and there's no cream and sugars, and I choose to have it just black. And I don't mind it, but I do prefer, I'm at the 1 cream, 1 sugar state. But actually what I do now, Bryce is in on this trend.
Yeah.
The oat milk, but the vanilla flavored oat milk, just that.
It's good.
So good.
Yeah.
Who
needs creamer?
To the gym either.
No coffee, no gym.
I've never been to the gym either. I eat candy. Says Scott from AE Carpentry.
No. Mike.
Okay, let's get some worldly news.
Okay, let's
going.
get on to the worldly news. There's lots of poop in the news today.
Good.
Unfortunately.
Good. Those are my favorites.
Firefighters battle blaze from 22-ton pile of chicken poop in Britain.
What?
Yeah.
22 tons?
Yeah, firefighters in Britain said crews from 3 towns spent 3 hours extinguishing the flames from a blaze that started with a 22-ton pile of chicken manure.
Gross. Gross.
That's a lot of poop.
And apparently it stunk. Surprise, surprise.
Yep. Wasn't this a real thing that one of the bridges in Saskatoon a couple years ago, they shut down because they had to do shit removal from the bridge because there was so much weight from all the pigeon shit on this one bridge that it was causing, like, there was cause for concern for structural reasons because there was tons of poop on it.
Gross.
So they shut the bridge down. They had crews under there basically chiseling shit off the bridge.
Yeah. That's nuts, hey?
I think I'd quit.
Starting fire.
I think I'd collect CERB instead of doing that. There's no.
So here's the even crazier part of this story is that the pile of chicken shit spontaneously combusted.
Yeah.
What?
So that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Because if you get a little bit of moisture in there, poof, up it goes, right? That's the same as bales. Like bales will spontaneously combust if you put them in, like if you bale them when it's too wet, right?
Yeah, well, they say like when the piles get too big, the heat just can't escape, and then it gets trapped and lights itself on fire.
Oof. Really? Interesting.
Now
that's gonna be my new thing when my
now you know
when my 13-year-old doesn't flush a toilet. I'm like, get in here before you burn the house down.
Okay. Number 2, old TV knocked out villages broadband every day at the same time for 18 months.
An old TV?
Yes. So
I'm so distracted today. I have to piece these stories together in my mind after he says them because I'm just elsewhere.
Okay, so another.
Did you say old TV?
Yeah, I said old TV.
Just said it. It's easier to focus. You just stare
right?
Stop looking at that.
Okay, here I am.
Okay, so for the last 18 months, at exactly the same time every day, everybody's internet in the entire village would shut off.
Okay.
And engineers, they replaced thousands of miles of cable.
Oh my God. Can you imagine when they found out who it is? It's like, frickin' Mike!
Yep.
And the whole town just lynches him.
Yep, that's exactly what happened. At 7 a.m. every day, like clockwork, it happened. And it was due to a very, very, very old TV set, like 1950s.
So
I don't understand how.
Yeah, what's the science behind this?
It was electrical interference.
EMI.
Yeah.
So much EMI off that TV that it was wiping out the town's
wipes out
internet.
the town's internet.
And the guy's got cancer now.
Yeah, wow.
Or he's a superhero.
He's an old dude, apparently.
Yeah, he's 178. And nobody's questioned why he's still jogging. Like, that's funny. Just to catch up while you're looking up the next story, Premium Yards and Garages says black coffee makes me a better carpenter.
100%. I agree.
Dan
Totally.
0909 says hopefully your job site has a place to go. When you get older, it's a problem. Eric Teru says desk work is the number one reason to start drinking coffee.
Yep.
I agree with that. And Quigley Cable Rail says I like the taste of coffee, actually. No, I like the taste of coffee, especially when it's diluted with whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Whiskey diluted with coffee. Even better.
However,
the last story.
maybe you had whiskey. Whiskey makes me fight. Do you have whiskey this morning?
Yeah, I must have. I must have.
Sneaking it into
I
your
was
coffee.
in a great. The stupid thing is, I feel like I was in a great mood this morning.
This was going to be so good. And then now I'm mad.
And even when I left the house, I was not even mad about it. Anyway, without digging up and sewering my wife on this podcast now, I'm just not in a great mood anymore.
It was your fault anyways.
I accept maybe 20% of the responsibility.
It's a 50-50 relationship.
50-50. So, the last poop story of the day. Man made knife from frozen poop and won a IG Nobel Prize.
What's an IG Nobel Prize?
That's enough
It's
internet.
like a funny Nobel Prize, I guess.
Oh.
That's enough internet for today.
So, were you specifically searching out poop stories today?
No,
or-
that was all that was in the... Unless you want to talk about lottery winners and
It was a
wild
shitty
animals.
day for news.
Yeah. So it's like the IG Nobel.
Where's the
Yeah, right there.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, so it was about an anthropological entomologist who decided that
For what purpose was he making a shit knife?
because it was because there's a story of an Inuit man in Canada who made a knife out of his own shit and
Challenge
saved his own
accepted.
life
Challenge accepted. Saved his own life from a what?
from starvation because he could like cut,
I
kill,
thought
kill shit.
I thought he fought a
No.
polar bear
Yeah.
with a shit knife.
Probably dove
No.
into the ocean and killed a beluga whale or something.
Yeah. Okay, well,
That's enough of that.
That's enough of that.
I feel like 99 should have been less shitty, but here we go.
Here we go.
What else you got?
Oh wow!
What else you got?
Wait, you're
Shane's
giving
on a
yourself
roll
rim
today.
shots now? Is it?
More puns.
Even my joke was really funny.
Fire up the puns, boys. Let's go. Okay, right to it. Pros and cons of helical screw piles.
Bum, bum, bum.
So, when we were brainstorming what the topics are going to be for the next 10 or 12 weeks, I just kind of threw out randomly. I was like, I don't know. One could even be like 5 reasons why screw piles are great and like 3 why they're not or something. And we wrote that down. And then Bryce does Instagram stories this week. He's like, coming up, 5 reasons why, 3 reasons why not. And I was like, whoa, those are just numbers. I didn't actually have that specific number of reasons, but we managed to make it
We
fit
managed.
and work.
Short and succinct.
And there's a list, so that's really good.
Oh, it's so good on the list. Do you want to start with the pros or the cons?
Why do you do pro and then a con?
Why? Yeah. Because then you get an
Pro and
odd
then a
number.
con,
Pro and a con, pro and a con. I like that style.
And then we end with a pro.
Yeah. I like that style quite a bit.
Fine. Here we go.
No numbers.
Yeah.
Wow. I have to do numbers. How do I don't know what to do with my hands now. Okay. Pro,
Yeah.
Pro.
That works.
That's better.
Just do that, pro.
quick install.
Yep.
I feel like this is one of the biggest pros.
Mm-hmm.
There's, of the 5 we put down, there's 3 that really resonate with me, but this is one of them.
The other
quick
2 we
install.
just made up because Bryce said we had to get 5. So
Yeah.
here we go. We got 3 strong and then a couple strong against.
But how long does it take? So this is regional too. The answer to all these is going to be somewhat regionally affected depending on how deep your piles are supposed to go to.
Absolutely.
And like we're in a place where these make the most amount of sense possible.
There's actually times when it gets really close to hell freezing over because it went through the earth in Saskatchewan and almost froze it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's where we have a legit shot of freezing hell over here.
Satan's like, shit, cold up in Saskatchewan today. I can feel it on my arse.
I'm going to have to get somewhere else.
So a quick install. So here, like we said, this is going to come up a few times. If you're in an area like Washington where your pile depth needs to be 12 inches,
Right.
well, it doesn't take too long to dig a 12-inch hole either, 12
No.
by 12 or 16 by 12
No.
hole, and fill it with a little bit of concrete. That doesn't take very long. But this point is if you're in a market that needs to go deeper, so Ontario, 4 foot depth in Ontario, so they're driving piles 7-8 feet deep.
But even into the States, right? Minnesota and kind of
the Northeast.
Yeah.
Generally. Yeah. Or here.
I would have just said north.
Or here, the obnoxious here-ness of our frost depth and our pile requirements here, where you're like a concrete pile to be effective is 16 plus feet deep.
It's wild.
And people don't even believe us when we say that.
Yep.
That takes a while to dig that hole out and fill it with concrete and form a pile.
Yeah.
These things drive in literally from the time that like you mark your spot from the time that you like place the pile there and you start driving, it is about 2 minutes. They just screw it in and it's done, and then on to the next. So you can put, you have 4 piles to put in. By the time you get the machine off the trailer, you're 20 minutes. And that's to mark them and drive them and pack up and get out of there again.
Yeah.
In 20 minutes. So there's no need to even necessarily plan a day for piles. You could just plan for that to be the guy that rolls in at 8 a.m. and does it first. And then by the time you have your trailer unloaded to start the work to the day, it's ready to go.
Foreman guy rolls in, marks out the piles because he's the boss man. He's got to be like kind of standing around running the tape measure.
That's right.
And so he or she picks the location of the piles, and then Swamper, lackey,
gets to
lowest man on the totem pole, hauls all the tools to the back. And I was like, okay, saws are set up. We're ready to go. We're ready to go. Good. The piles are done.
Yep. That's pretty quick.
Yeah.
So like you had said, a lot of this is going to depend on the timing. I believe that we should preface all of this with this is a retrofit, like a deck that is a retrofit deck, right? Or a redo, or on a new house that doesn't have piles. But I think that it is probably just as fast to drill concrete piles if you put the piles in during the foundation of the house. Because in Saskatchewan, we build our houses on piles.
If the concrete guy and the piler's already there.
That's right. So they're already there. They're doing the foundation for the house. They're like, we got to do piles and then a grade beam and all this stuff. And so they're drilling piles already. And if those ones are marked out and the guy in the Bobcat is just driving around, or the pile machine is driving around and is like, boom, 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 just blowing holes in the ground, and the cement truck is there and they're pouring pile, then that makes the most sense. Do it at that time.
Yeah.
I still think that's the right time.
I'd still argue that it's much quicker and more like
time to time.
Steel?
Time to time, if you actually recorded the time to drill the hole with the Bobcat and then pour the pile, the amount of time to do a helical screw pile is less on a stopwatch, right?
Yeah.
But the efficiency is gained when you're doing all of the other piles, right? So because pile guy has to stop and then leave, and then new guy has to arrive and then pull them out and drill,
But you have to be prepared for that.
Sure. Planning is everything. So
right.
I would have had that done.
Before I even built the house, I had the deck planned out.
That's true.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a pro.
Pro.
They drive really, really fast.
Yep.
A con, and probably the biggest con, is that in your area, engineers are hit and miss on these things. Some of them like them, lots of them don't, and sometimes the ones that do, like with anything they engineer, they overkill it. It's just like, well, that's 16 feet too.
Yeah.
But it works differently than the friction pile. It doesn't need to be 16 feet. I said 16 feet. Come on. Is that really necessary? No.
It's not.
But every time we've seen an engineer send back a stamp plan with helical piles on it, it's 16 feet deep, and it's the 3.5-inch pipe, and it's
like a
12-inch helix, 16-inch helix.
Disc.
It's massively overdone to what the pile guys are using for their standard pile for a deck. So it's just like,
yeah. And so an engineer, I can understand that they don't want to be accountable for that, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, except they're not accountable, because in the fine print of their stamp, nothing falls back on them.
I'm responsible for the ink on the stamp, and that's it.
The paper. Yeah. That's what they're responsible for.
Piss me off.
So that's the one thing that we run into sometimes here. I don't know that we've met too many engineers that are like, we won't do that, but they're just not. They're not usually fine with the out of the box solution on the engineered pile on the engineered piles, because you can provide your engineering in the piles and be like, here you go.
Yeah.
But they always want to go deeper, bigger, and sometimes they want to cap them with a concrete cap on it, which that I had that job one time. There was like the plans came back and it was like, this is going to be driven 16 feet deep and it's going to be capped with a concrete cap on it, 12 by 12 concrete cap.
Mm-hmm.
What's the point of that thing? Why are you making me do that? The reason I want to do this is to not bring concrete to the job site.
Yeah.
If I have to bring it anyway, what's the point? And they're like, well, it's to give you a bigger surface area for landing your post on, so you don't have to be so accurate. It's like, I'm okay with trying to be more accurate. I don't want the cap.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. But anyway, so there's just goofy little things like that.
That sounds like a builder problem.
Right.
Yeah, let me worry about that if I miss.
Because you can move the post a few inches. It's no big deal.
Oh, I thought you were skipping ahead. I was like,
no. You can move the post a few inches, right? It's like,
yeah, you can get bigger plates or offset plates, or like the saddle can solve that for you.
Yeah.
Right? Like, or they have offset plates. If you miss your mark by 2 inches or something, like if you miss by 6 inches, then like, that's on you.
We have a solution for that.
Yeah. So anyway, and also your building department. So here you put in a permit with piles in it, no problem. That's accepted. But in some areas where it's just they're not maybe as prevalent there yet or known about yet, they may push back and be like, that's not in the our code book as an approved pile option. So no, now you have to go get it engineered. Then we're back to step one.
Yeah, and then there's some resistance. And it's the same with steel framing. Like whenever you start to do things like this, you're going to have some pushback.
Yeah.
And so you have to really want it. You know what I mean? But I think that the pros are enough that people should want this.
So there's no like...
There's only been one pro so far.
Yeah. It's
foreshadowing, though.
It's foreshadowing. I just foreshadowed that
there's more to come.
Yeah. Stay tuned.
So there's no like pre-engineered like certificate on helical screw piles?
There is.
Yeah.
And just no one accepts it?
When they want it site specific because the soil conditions can be so different and they operate differently, whatever.
Right.
Like if you did hit an aquifer and you torque out at 100 pounds, it's like, it's not working anymore. So they want to make sure that's like, your 10-foot pile can hold 10,000 pounds. Great. But we need to know that it's going to hold 10,000 pounds in the backyard that you're drilling it in, because you don't know what's under the ground there.
Yeah.
That's the thing, right? And
so
especially here out in like White City where there is, well, you'd know this better than we would, a lot of like waters and aquifers and voids in the ground, 6 feet down.
Yeah.
Then sometimes you need to go deeper. But the guys that drive them know this because they're watching a torque, like whatever you call it, a torque meter, torqueometer. Torque. Is that a thing?
I can get behind that.
They're watching their torque.
They're watching the torque.
And you can tell if you've hit a void, the torque drops off.
Right, just spins.
Go deeper.
Yeah.
That's the nice thing about those, is it's pretty easy to go deeper.
Yep.
So let's catch up on some comments here. Greenlee Construction says, I find the concrete piles sometimes get bumped on new builds.
Like they take them out, right? They suggest that it's like, here, I'm gonna put the pile in, and then right at the last second, it's like, don't put those in, take them out. I don't know if the deck's going to be like that, so that it gets bumped. Right. I think that's what he means by that.
Gotcha.
I think that makes a lot of sense, though, for people buying the house. They want to customize their own deck.
Yeah, and here, I don't know if it's like this everywhere, but here, often the deck is not in the plans. Like, the house is built there, and like it's built where a deck's going to go, but it's not like they don't plan it. So you have no idea where the piles are going to go. And I don't know that often when we have people that have piles already poured, they're wanting to do something different anyway. It's like, there's piles there, but they're kind of not in the perfect spots. And then sometimes you don't use them because like they poured them at 8 feet out, but we want to go 14 feet out in the deck. And so we don't need those. Like, it happens, right? So it's almost not worth pouring them at the start unless you absolutely have the whole thing planned and it's being all built at once.
And then it's all in your mortgage. Silly idea. Who'd want to do that?
Planning is...
Dan Rossi 0909 says, wondering if deck contractors will start getting their own piling equipment in the future.
That's happening.
So that's happening.
That's already happening right now.
Yep.
There's some guys like Perfect View. We talked about him last week. He has his own side business doing them. I think the guy that in the Facebook group's Adam Darova, I think he bought a machine. I think he doesn't have a separate business. It's just like he bought the machine to do his own piles.
Yep.
A few guys now that are doing that, and there's lots more guys asking about doing it.
Yep.
And so it's heading that way for
sure.
Here
we go. You're going to have one right now.
I mean, you don't really need that much equipment to do them.
Nope.
You need one piece of equipment. Right? It's an expensive piece.
And a trailer.
But even like the ones that Post-Tech drives with your mini excavator, some systems you don't need something that big. Right?
Correct.
Like the Techno Metal Post guys driving with a remote control little thing that fits through a 24-inch gate. Mm-hmm. It's just a little machine. I imagine it's probably quite pricey too, given it's a goddamn robot. But But it doesn't have to be a big machine. Like you maybe
Right.
could get into this for less. You just have to have something with a hydraulic on it that can torque it properly.
Yep.
Could be smaller. So, TC Dex says, if I were doing 3 or 4 decks a week with multiple crews, I'd buy my own pile equipment in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
So that's what we talked about last week too. If you're a multi-crew operation, then it probably makes sense right away.
Yeah, no
Your
problem.
patter.
Mitcon Dex says you can take them out and move them too. Hey,
You settle down. Maybe that thing's turned. Maybe he read your paper.
Can he see this?
Can he see it?
Come on now.
Fine.
And Greenlee says Techno Post sells 2 options for engineering, or they did for me in Saskatoon.
Yeah, techno guys in Saskatoon are good.
And holy, we got a lot of stuff to catch up on here. Carly Tuds, which is Carly from the Ultimate Deck Shop Saskatoon, says the deck I visited at Tobin Lake had helical piles 42 feet long.
Oh, that makes sense up there, though.
That is crazy.
Frost level and
Why does it make
water.
sense up there?
Tobin Lake,
Water,
it's like
yeah.
super north.
So yeah, I mean, when the post tech guy that he's done them at least that deep, or maybe deeper. There was some job he did where the solar field or something, maybe I can't remember what it was, that he had to go like 40 or 60 feet deep, and so you just drive 10 feet, put an extension on, drive, put an extension on. Like you can go as deep as you want,
Yeah.
till your machine torques out and you hit the crust or the core of the earth, not the crust.
The core
crust
of the
is
earth.
the easiest part to get out of. And then when you get the core, it's really easy, just like
Yeah, I like that
Right in
movie.
there.
Like there was that old movie, The Core.
right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
With Ben Affleck. Did it have Ben Affleck?
No.
What was the core?
The Core was, it had that, what's his name? Had that kid, the geeky looking kid
Macaulay
from
Culkin.
Loser. Did you ever watch that movie?
Nope.
Sorry.
Losing me here.
Sorry.
AE Carpentry says, I think he means that the house framers break the piles with their booms. Yeah, that's what I initially thought. He meant that they were getting
Oh, they get bumped.
they were
like
getting
that.
bumped, like run into,
So they're useless.
not bumped off the
Right.
plans. Yeah.
Like if you hit them, they're not good.
GJ Quails, that guy.
Yeah, that guy.
Eric Teru says over here, helical piles are like track saws. The good deck builders use them. Whoa.
Ah, shots fired. This guy,
I don't remember that guy. So,
he's pretty nerdy.
all right, well, maybe that's movie
Yeah.
night tonight.
I
Maybe
don't
the
know.
core.
I don't know that I'd watch that.
Okay, so now we've gotten past the engineers and the permit department and everything else. Back to pro. No mess. And this is
Yeah.
another one of my top 3.
Yeah.
Here.
Is my
Again, here.
Yeah, because moving sand isn't so bad, but moving the shit that we call soil,
Clay.
gumbo, the worst clay on earth, this is awful. You can't shovel the material that we built our city on.
No. And yet you go just east of here, like Pilot Butte, and you are shoveling sand. I know that Mike did some piles where they had to hydrovac some buried lines before he put the piles in. They'd say hydrovac the holes, whatever, and it's just sand. It's like
Blows away.
It just falls in. Because sand's great, right? Structurally,
Yep.
sand is like the best if it's compacted and whatever. But as soon as it's like loose, then it's not.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, you don't have to go too far to be where you can shovel pretty easily.
Yeah.
But right here in Regina and
It's the
close area,
worst.
It's almost like the capital city should have been somewhere else
It was supposed
it
to
should have
be.
been. Yeah,
with a river.
east
Stupid
of here in the
politics.
Coupelle Valley.
Stupid politics.
So,
So the mess is
this
super,
is a huge one.
Yeah.
For if you're digging 12 inches of soil in Washington, not a big deal again.
yeah. So what is anybody good at cubic volume here? Anybody in this area able to do cubic volume
I mean,
quickly?
in this room,
in this room.
in this cubic room.
It could be.
Okay. How much material do you have to remove? Cubic meters.
Oh,
of
now
material?
you've lost. Now you're going metric. Gone.
Whatever. Cubic feet then.
Yeah,
Sure.
it's all the same.
When you do this, you got to go like, because if you get me the cubic feet, I can punch that into Google. I can get the metric of it.
Well, this
But
is
it's just-
fairly easy because your holes are typically like
12
let's
inches
call it
around?
12 inches around, so one.
Oh.
Well,
It's 16 feet deep?
But
yeah,
yeah, so 16 cubic feet then.
wild, right? That is a lot of material. That is a lot of material to put onto the ground.
Yeah, that's probably like, I don't know what the conversion would be exactly, but probably like maybe like 2 or 3 cubic yards.
Right.
So that's a few Bobcat bucketfuls
Mhm.
of clay coming out of one hole.
Yeah. Can't shovel it. So it's just like this mess of stuff.
Yeah, so, and that's the other thing. You need a bobcat anyway
Yep.
to go that deep.
It's gross.
Yeah, you already have that machinery on site, so now you're going to pay extra for them to remove the material too, because
Yep.
you're not spreading that out.
Can't.
Here, right?
Yeah, you can't
So
put it
like,
around.
oh, just grab the
spread the
rake
clay
and just
out,
kind of
yeah.
spread it out on the lawn.
Nope.
No. So the stuff's gross here. You're hauling on a ton of material. So if you're in an area where your piles have to go deep, it's a huge advantage to be able to do this because there is no mess to clean up afterwards. And you drive the pile and it doesn't displace any dirt. There's like an anthill around the pile that you step on and you flatten it back out rather than dealing with, and even if you can shovel it, it's a whole bunch of work. Like even if you are in sandy place, like you don't want to have to do that if you don't have to.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. No mess.
So no mess is a huge pro. Back to, did we do this right?
Con.
We're going to run out.
That's okay.
Back to cons.
We're gonna double up pros in the end.
Probably are completely overkill for some areas. The areas we've already talked about a bunch.
Yeah.
So a lot of people in the Instagram world are always asking Dr. Dex, Jason Russell out in Washington, how come he doesn't use helical piles?
Yes.
Because he's regarded as one of the best builders out there. People follow him. They want to do what he does. And they're conflicted because they also look at this other thing and be like, well, everybody else in the industry says helical piles are the way to go, but yet this guy doesn't use them. So because
it doesn't work in his market.
And his reason is just like, you guys, I have to dig 12 inches. Like we dig it with a shovel and we pour a little bit of concrete in there.
Yeah.
It's overkill for me to drive piles deep into the ground. I don't have to. It doesn't freeze here.
And it doesn't make sense. Even if it's like, so in Regina, you don't have to do a pile. Like you don't have to do a helical pile. You can put this thing on the ground, but it's like it makes sense here to do a pile, right? Like that's the proper way to do it. So it's not like Jason's cutting corners.
No,
he's like, that's legit a viable option. That's a good way to do that in his climate.
Yeah.
So,
and then other places like where you just don't have to go as deep. It's just overkill if you don't require it. If it's not required and you can safely build it another way, then maybe bringing in big machinery and driving 10-foot or 7-foot deep piles is more than needed. And to our point before, these things we're not going to talk about. It's not one of our points, but the cost of these things is about $300 a pile. And so if you look at something like that, where you only have to pour a little 12 by 12 inch thing, it's like, well, you're using like $8 worth of concrete,
right,
and 10 minutes to dig the hole. So how do you justify, a loaded labor rate of $30 plus materials versus $300 when you don't need it? So it's wasteful that way.
Yep.
Mitcon Dex says Dr. Dex has his equipment for helical piers. So I do know that Dr. Dex had mentioned that he's now going to be like, I don't know, sponsored by some helical pile company. So now he'll be using helical piles. But for the last 30 years, he's not.
Until somebody paid him to do it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Precision says Jason is converted to piles. He just bought a Mascor helical pier driver. Yeah. So that's happening. I saw that in his stories a little while ago that his next job was going to have them now. So even the guy who doesn't need him is now using them. Back to the pros, and somebody touched on this before. I think it was Mitcon Dex. They're movable. Now, you hope you don't have to run into this situation.
Really good.
Really good.
But if you do,
thoroughly enjoy this.
Boy, is it nice that you can do that. Because when you pour a concrete pile in the wrong spot.
So this happened to me. I have had this. We did that deck out at just west of town last year, the one for Climb.
Okay, yeah.
And I laid those piles out, and I don't know what I did. I hooked onto the house at the wrong spot, and I marked out 3 piles in the wrong spot. I missed them by a foot or a 2 foot. Maybe the house had a 1 foot offset, and the engineer wanted it off of this side of the house or this part of the house, and I did it off the inside of the house. And so we finished it, and then I stepped back, and I was kind of like, the machine was still there. Mike hadn't left yet, but I was looking at the piles and was like, but on the plans, these are all supposed to be in a row. And it was like, dunk, dunk. There was 2 piles, and then jogged over 2 feet, and then 3 more piles. And I was like, no. Those are all supposed to be in the same line. And
like you were supposed to be 12 feet off the house here, but then it jogged or something?
Yeah.
And you kept going 12 feet, but you're supposed to be 13.
Yeah. Or whatever it was, right?
Yeah.
But I remember putting them down and then was like, oh, yeah. Nope, that's no good. We have to. And so Mike was like, oh, no big deal. Backed him out. Could you imagine if you'd done that with concrete? He laid him, drilled the thing, poured him.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah, this one doesn't matter until it does. And then it's the most important one on the list.
Right?
Right? So Mike also, when we say Mike, we're referring to the Post Tech Regina franchise operator here, who does a lot of piles for our contractors and for us when we're doing a managed install and whatnot.
And every company can do this, but
this is a universal thing for sure. He had his sister-in-law got hosed by a contractor.
Then the last laugh on that is on us because that guy ended up hosing us.
He did hose us as well. But before he hosed us, he hosed Mike's sister-in-law, and he was supposed to build a deck and a fence. And so we went out there and he had Mike drive all these piles because sister-in-law, so she was obviously getting a good deal on him. But this guy hired Mike, and he had marked the piles and said, "Put them all here." And I can't remember what there was. There was quite a few. There was at least 8 or 9. It might have been 12 or 13, but there's quite a few. And so all these piles get driven. This guy shows up, I don't know what he was doing, but anyways, neither did he. And then bailed with her deposit and never showed back up. The fence was not even close to finish. The deck just had random pieces of lumber, like kind of like box framed around, like hanging, and like stuff wasn't even fastened. It was laying on the ground, and like it was just. Oh no! It was like I don't know. I've never seen anything that bad. Mike wanted me to come out there to say like, "Hey, is any of this usable? Can we make this work?" And I went out and looked at it. And I was like, dude, I don't even know. I can't even figure out what the plan was by looking at what's been done here. Like, I don't even know what shape this deck's supposed to be. There's just shit laying everywhere. Like, I have no idea what he was trying to do. You
sent me a picture of that, and I was like, no. And you're like, yep, no, this is real. This isn't photoshopped or anything. I'm standing right here looking at this. This is a guy that's building a deck.
It looked like drove. I couldn't even figure out where the beams were. You know how like
effing sure he didn't have a track saw
on the maybe, and that was a long bike ride too because it was intense. But I remember like if you go to your job you were just talking about and you saw it, even in the wrong layout, if you saw that you'd be like 2 piles here, 3 piles here. You'd be like, oh well, clearly there's a beam here and there's a beam here. Yep. Like you would know how that's getting laid out. I went out there and I was like, I can't make sense of where the beams are even supposed to be going on this thing. Like I have no idea. And all it looked like was like piles have been driven in, posts set in the piles, and then it was like a forklift had driven over and just spilled some lumber on top, and some of them happened to land on things, and then others were like on, but then on the ground, and like, like that.
It was so like, bad.
It was wild. And then so he takes off, sewers her for a bunch of money. Mike
Chain to the rescue.
Like, can you design something to do this, whatever? I was like, I can, but I don't know how to use these piles. Like, I think they're going to have to be moved. So thankfully, they could be. Mike brings the machine back, pulls out 10 piles, give or take, and re-drives them where we need to be for no extra cost. Like, obviously, for if somebody had to do that, he would charge the labor to come do that. But you're not paying another.
You're not out the pile.
You're right. You're not out the pile again. You're not driving another $300 pile again, right?
Which with concrete,
at
16 feet,
can't pull those out. Yep.
Yeah. Like you're just driving a new one, and you better hope that they don't need the old one to be gone now, or else that's another huge job.
Unbelievable.
But anyway, so that when it's needed, that's a huge pro.
Yeah, movable, deadly.
Next con is Roots and Rocks.
Roots and Rocks.
So again, here we have
sounds like a band. Should be a band.
We should start this band.
I'm not starting a band.
We got the Roots and the Rocks.
No.
Oh, you were supposed to step in there. Right? Like,
oh, okay.
That's AC/DC. You can't do that. That was AC/DC.
It's the AC/DC cover band, Roots and Rocks.
Yeah.
Saskatchewan.
Angus would be so mad at you.
Again, here, we don't run into this very often.
No, because we just have clay.
There's nothing in the ground.
Shovel.
It's clay. There's not many rocks in the ground here. If you hit
There's
something,
no trees.
If you hit something here, it's like somebody put it there. It's a chunk of concrete from an old foundation or something.
Oh, there was a house here.
But you might hit roots. And the nice thing about piles, to turn this into a pro, is that you can directionally drill those to a certain extent. If you hit an obstruction, you can go around it. He can drive those things. Like I've watched Mike drive a pile under a sidewalk. You know what I mean? Like if the pile needs to be right next to the sidewalk, but you got a 60-inch plate on or a 12-inch plate, he can kind of start out here, drive it underneath, and straighten that thing up and get the post right beside the sidewalk. Like he can drive around things. Only once in I don't know how many piles I did with him when I was building. A few, like call it like a couple hundred, I don't know. Only once did we ever hit something that that the pile at the end of the day when it was all said and done was really kind of not ideal. Like it was not where it's supposed to be perfectly, and it was kind of crooked a little bit. And like we made it work, but it was an obstruction that we couldn't really make it our way around.
Right.
But if you're in a place that does have a lot of like freaking, some guys are digging up boulders out of the ground. If you have that and you hit that with a pile, you're not going through it. right? And you haven't dug a hole to even expose it and know what you're dealing with.
Yeah.
You can get out sonar and start poking around or something. Mm-hmm. So if you hit something and you can't get by it and you try to go around it, you're kind of screwed. You just now you're going to need to dig and expose that thing anyway and find out what it is, or plan B needs to come into effect, right?
No good.
So that's one con, is that they work perfectly, awesomely when they work. And then if there's something in the way, sometimes it's a bit of a challenge.
Yep.
Next pro. Here's a story from Finkelberry 1000. Mike did some piles for us last year. Had to go through asphalt. Asphalt? Asphalt. Asphalt?
Asphalt.
Went through it like butter. So asphalt.
Asphalt.
And New England Deck Pros says, I have been using piles on most of my jobs this year. Every job has been rocky.
And they work, obviously.
I don't know if he means he's been using helical piles or concrete piles. You said piles.
And rocky, like as in rocks, or like it's not working out that well for you?
It's been rocky.
Yeah.
Right?
It's been okay.
There's a lot of flex to that statement right there. I'm not sure how to take it.
All right.
So small rocks usually not bad because it screws. It can kind of go around things at the same time if it's driving at the same time, right? But anyway, number pro. Ready to build.
This is driving you crazy. I think it's awesome.
Ready to build is another big one for me too. And we touched on this with the quick install. Quick install and quick readiness to build. Because as soon as the pile is driven and he pops the collar off, pops the sleeve off the end of the pile, you're ready.
Ready to go.
Put
ready
your
to
top
party.
I'm usually ready to party as soon as I pop the top off.
Right?
Just saying.
But that's the awesome part about it, is that guys could start working before he's even done driving the pile. He drives one, it's like, okay, now we go get our saddle set and we'll cut our posts for this one. You can work right behind him. And when he drives out,
as long as you have your high vis vest on.
Right.
Because he's got a big piece of machinery, you got to have your high vis vest on.
Yeah. But there's no cure time like there would with piles, you don't have to
let him
wait
sit
a day and then come back and
it's go time.
Yeah, you're just ready to go right away. Eric Teru, New England Deck Pro says he was talking about helical piles and still undetermined whether rocky means some rocky ground or if it didn't go so well.
Yeah.
Eric Teru says usually it has to be a pretty big rock that they can't work around.
Yep.
Yeah. Precision Construction says the piers here have what they call rock pitch, and they do pretty well. I wonder, what does that mean?
So Simcoe texted me
that a bit.
Which one?
Rock pitch?
Yeah.
What's rock pitch?
The piers here have what they call rock pitch, and they do pretty well, he says.
Cool.
I'm intrigued. What are you talking
Maybe
about?
they're really steep. Maybe the pitch on the plate.
Oh, it's like the threading. The threading is
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
travels longer, so the void between.
Sure.
Maybe.
Rock pitch.
That would make sense.
That's what
I'll bet you that's it.
I'm doing it. I'm going with it.
Simcoe says this week's episode, smokers.
Yeah.
Hey, Wade? No idea.
Simcoe texted me yesterday and was like, I know that you're going to be kind of biased on this. Bradley or Traeger? And I was like, well, here's what I know. Traeger guys have to go on to all social platforms and tell you how amazing a Traeger smoker is.
Yeah.
And Bradley smoker guys are busy just running the smoker.
Yeah.
And so I was like, obviously I have a Bradley smoker because I was able to get it at a really good price. Shane discounted it. It was pretty good for me.
Because it fell off the truck.
Just about. I caught it right before.
Yeah.
But so anyways.
I kept the box for it, actually. It was in such good condition.
I've never had any issues with my Bradley smoker. I really like it. I don't mind the biscuit feed. One of the things I don't like about Bradley smokers is that there are a lot of biscuits that end up collecting at the bottom. It'd be nice if there was I think with the Traeger, the smaller pellets burn off a little bit better, but I don't know that for sure. So I can't give you a solid opinion about a Traeger, but what I can say is that Traeger people are they're like proud Traeger people. It seems weird.
Yeah, it's a bit of a cult following in the Traeger stuff, more so than it is on Bradley. I mean, and the Big Green Egg, right? There's a couple cults.
Yeah,
Traeger and the Big Green Egg and all these guys. Whereas, the Bradley is a little bit more of a just kind of a layman's man's smoke. It's just,
but it's really
it just
good.
Works. It's just just good.
Smoke, right?
And there is a wicked community for it too.
Yeah,
it's just that people don't go out there and bragging about their Bradleys.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I've read that the Bradley. Thanks, Mike.
Now we're
He's
on
the
to
guy who's
smokers.
complaining that we're always off topic, and here he throws this little linchpin in here. So
Why
I've
would
read
you
the reason that those
distract
pucks
me?
always aren't completely burned is because like they intentionally advance them every 20 minutes because they don't want the if you
don't want charcoal.
correct smoke.
Yeah.
Right. You don't want the burnt wood to start smoking off because then that kills the flavor. So they intentionally kind of like speed them through a little bit faster. But anyways, you go through some pucks, that's for sure.
Yeah. Especially when you're doing a brisket. Holy boy.
Yeah. Rock pitch is the degree, you were right. The degree angle of the helix is different so that it cuts differently. It goes into rocky soil really well. So that makes sense to me.
Okay.
I wonder if those don't torque up as quickly because it's more aggressively driving. That's like with a bit of a turn, it would drive further. So I wonder if they take a little bit more to torque up. I don't know. But you could solve that by making a bigger pile too, or a bigger plate or whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Cool. So there's other options. Good.
Here we go. We got Big Green Egg, shouts out, couple exclamation points. We have other guys like Traeger and Trex and Azek and Bradley. Where are we at now?
Ready
Last
to build?
one.
Yeah, it was ready to build. We're going to double up on the
ready to
pros.
build. I guess we didn't touch on that too much. But
What
what are you going to say?
Pretty
It's
self-explanatory.
ready to go the second they're
go.
driven in.
Done.
That's one of the biggest efficiencies there is that part there.
Yeah.
So you save money and time, I guess.
Oh, and
Yeah.
then time is like
Sounds
money.
horrible.
Time
Right?
is money.
So now you got extra money.
Oh, you doubled your
You
money.
got and time.
Retire.
You could use your deck faster.
Sounds like an infinite loop.
Mhm.
Final pro.
How were you able to retire early? I started using helical screw piles.
Yeah.
I made extra
3
money.
jobs in.
And I
And residual income passively just collects now because the time and the money loop. You know how it works. Yeah, I know how it works. Of course, I know how it works.
who doesn't know how it works?
Right, exactly.
Okay.
If anybody in the Instagram has some more cons or pros to this, because
We can't add them because I said 5 and 3.
Bryce pigeonholed us into this number of things. Undoubtedly, there might be a few more. So share them in Instagram and we can talk about them in a second. But the last pro that we had down here is they are more effective against frost heave than a friction pile is what we're referring to here.
Yes.
Or than pretty much any other solution, I guess, because the other options would be to not do friction piles here. And those don't battle frost at all.
Unless they're done properly. Like if you do the pile properly, it works, right? You do a bell pile and it's 16 feet deep. And
I guess at similar depths, maybe we should have prefaced that with, like if you're going to go 10 feet and 10 feet, the helical pile is going to outperform the concrete pile of frost heave.
Correct.
Here.
Correct.
So, and just because they work differently, I was just thinking about this morning as I was waiting for my wife to get out of the shower so I could leave.
I thought you weren't going to do that.
I wasn't. I didn't.
She's not here.
I didn't. I was thinking about how the difference between a concrete pile and a helical pile and how they work differently. And it's in my head, it was almost like it's kind of like a nail and a screw if you think about it. Because I was thinking like, well, the reason that the concrete piles don't work against frost sometimes is because they're not deep enough, so there's not enough friction there to stop the ground from pulling the pile up.
Mm-hmm.
And so it kind of works like a nail. It goes in straight, and if it needs to come out, it can be pulled straight out if you pull enough. And the deeper the nail is, the more friction there is, the harder it is to pull out. Kind of similar to that. And whereas a screw pile is more like a screw. Because I've always wondered, not always, for quite a while I wondered.
It's pretty deep shit for a Saturday morning.
Now you understand why I'm mentally not here. I'm pretty out there today.
Yeah.
But I always wondered too, is like why is the torque of the screw piles the only thing that matters? Is there no bearing weight of like compressive strength of that plate at the bottom, like that way? You know, why is it just torque that matters? And then this morning I was thinking, well, it's like a screw. Doesn't matter how far you put the screw in, you're not gonna pound it the rest of the way in with a hammer.
Yeah.
They don't go straight in. It has to turn and torque to advance into something.
Right.
Yeah.
And then to come back out, it also has to turn and torque. You're not going to hook a claw hammer onto a screw and pop it out.
No.
So that's why it works so good against frost, because it anchors itself in the ground and doesn't matter what the ground does to that pile. First of all, it's like a silky smooth shaft.
Yeah, it is.
So the ground's not going to grip it to begin with.
Not much veining on it. It's pretty straight.
Pretty slick.
We need that music.
I'm sure you can edit that in. And then like with techno metal posts, they put that gimmicky green sleeve that's meant to whatever.
Increase friction.
Nobody likes that sleeve that goes over top. That's for sure.
Yeah, you can't get a good feel for the pile. So anyway, like it anchors itself in the ground. Even if it did get a hold of the pile, it would have an awful time trying to pull it straight up. It needs to reverse turn to come up. So they're effective as long as they get below the frost. That's the point, I guess. A foot below the frost, they're effective.
There you go.
Concrete, you basically have to double frost
Took
plus.
a long time to get to that part.
So
we got it.
Got there.
Scott's got a great point.
They're amazing here, that's for sure, with deep frost and clay soils. Like, we don't run into the cons very often here, but we take advantage of all the pros. So they're amazing here.
Yeah.
Scott from Precision says, did you mention the pro of not having to wait for footing inspection?
Right.
So
time money loop. Here we are.
Time money loop. It's back.
And that's a good point because we don't run into that here because they don't do pile inspection. Well,
because they don't inspect things here.
Yeah, things don't get inspected here.
They just like pull
you
up.
Just have to pay for
they
it.
Just park on the street and they're like, I don't know. Did you piles back there? Yeah, I did piles back there. Good to go then.
How deep is it? That's fairly deep. Fairly deep. Good. Good enough.
Doesn't matter to me. I'm not at fault. Ha ha ha. Poof, and away they go.
Well, I'm tired because that deep. It took me a bit. So that's a great point for places that do pile inspections is that, and for those who don't know, in a lot of markets, you dig your hole for the concrete pile. You can't pour concrete into it until somebody comes and measures the depth and says,
whoa,
looks good. That's the proper depth.
Wow, that's a lot of time.
Then you can fill your hole with concrete.
And you just stand there and you wait for the guy you stand and wait for the inspector to show up.
Twice. Because you have to wait.
Then
they inspect and then you pour the concrete and then you wait for that to
I'd be so
set.
pissed.
And then what if he doesn't show up or if he's delayed or whatever and you got crews sitting around? Like, you almost have to plan to not do it. This is where you go out there, you dig your holes, and then you schedule something else after that. And be like, but then you have to be there. A lot of inspectors, you have to be on site with the inspector to go through it. That would be a nightmare scenario. Here, rightly or wrongly, they don't do pile inspections. You put that you're doing a concrete pile on a deck and they're like, sounds good. And then the inspector
I'll
comes
take your
out,
word for
the
that.
inspector comes out and is like, yep, that's concrete. And then it's like,
you could fill the whole thing with packing peanuts and then do a 12-inch concrete cap on top and you'd be like, yeah, this looks pretty good there, right?
so that doesn't slow us down here, but great point that in many markets it would for sure.
Yep. Time money loop. This is
Time money loop.
Time money loop.
Premier Yards and Garages says, I found a guy in Edmonton, VM, that does them for pretty cheap. Only about $50 more than my cost to put in concrete. Yeah. So here, with that proper depth pile, the helical would be the cheaper option.
Edmonton's like same.
Well, it'd be similar there, right?
Same level of hell freezing over.
Yeah.
Except they got a hockey team. And being that it's 99 episode, one of the best players of all time.
Another point from Mitcon Decks. Then it rains.
Right. Oh, boy.
Yeah. Your concrete's.
And you have to redig your pile hole. No, your walls of your pile hole cave in or fills up or whatever. Then you're bringing in.
Yeah, you're laughing if you got it poured because then you could just drop some poly over top of your concrete. You're good to go.
Right.
Yeah.
Whoever thought of concrete stupid is.
But if you don't have those holes covered and all of a sudden it rains or something and it washes, like backfills the hole in a bit and fills it up with water, now you got to bring in a water pump the water out, redig the hole. I don't know. At that point, you have to recall for an inspection.
This is a lot of,
How are things going?
time
Here's
disappearing.
another
Things
loop.
are going great. I'm having the best time. Can't wait to do the rest of this pile.
Yeah.
Get started on your deck sometime next week, maybe.
Sorry, instead of piles, we decided to drill 10 small pools.
Yeah, basically. The VM in my comment is a typo. Please disregard. Good. So I was like, Edmonton VM. What is that?
Yeah.
What is that?
Van Morrison.
Yeah.
Very
Dan
magnificent.
Rossi 0909 says, for my addition, the contractor took a photo with the shovel in it to prove the depth of the foundation.
It's about this deep.
How deep is it? This deep.
This is very dig.
This shovel right here.
I digged it as deep as my shovel would go.
I couldn't go any deeper. I would have lost my shovel.
Yeah.
Then I've been pissed.
Whatever. That's a good. You have to show the depth, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't believe tape measures because they think everybody's lying.
Yeah. I use a metric tape measure, so it makes my piles look deeper. How deep is it? Looks about 300. 300 what? Your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah. 300 tape measures.
Multiplier divide by 10.
Yeah. So there it is. Piles. Helical piles are awesome. That's the moral of the story that we've been telling for years. That's for sure. Bryce, what's your, what have you learned? What have I
learned?
Yeah. Did you know about them before we got into, before you started working here?
I had no idea.
Tech stuff? It wasn't something you ran across in your surveying days?
My surveying days? No, they only did concrete piles in my surveying days.
Mm-hmm.
And steel piles. They like,
oh yeah,
big ones.
Yeah.
Like the ones they pound in.
Bashed them
like,
into the
boom,
ground.
boom. Those things are amazing.
Those are cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what we should build our next deck on.
But also,
it's like an I-beam that gets pounded into the ground.
Exactly.
How deep? 70 feet. Thanks.
Even surveying though, like we had benchmarks all the time for elevation, and some of them would just be a 4-foot pin in Saskatchewan, and they wouldn't move at all.
Interesting.
Yeah, because the whole earth goes like that.
Yeah. But sometimes it would squeeze them out too.
Yeah.
Like a zit.
Like a zit.
Yeah.
Like that sliver I just stuck
Dr.
out of my
Pimple
hand.
Popper. Precision Construction says another big pro for us is that with the helical pier, the customer has some sort of guarantee that the pile can hold the specified weight. With concrete, you're guessing without a soil sample.
Yeah, so with concrete piles, do you have to get like ground testing done?
No.
With any
Not here.
engineering? No? Because like you were like it's
don't know
site
that.
specific.
Yeah.
So how do they know what type of soil you have?
I'm guessing on commercial projects they probably do.
I don't
I have to get some. I don't know that. Don't know.
see.
It shouldn't matter. Like either one of those, it's like that. If it requires soil testing for one of them, it probably would require it for the other. Like you want to know what you're going into.
Except it seems like for the screw pile, once you hit that torque, like that's the number, right?
Well, you would know better.
yeah,
like
there's no testing.
So if you drive a screw pile to within 6 inches of an aquifer or a void down there or something like that, you're gonna know because the soil's gonna get looser and your torque will drop off a little bit. I suspect before you'd actually hit the void. Whereas a pile, like you would just drill it and be like, yeah, there's a bottom to the hole.
Yep.
So fill it up, and then that may like who knows, maybe you do have it falls out in the bottom.
Yeah,
and your
exactly.
pile is just like. Can you make the Mario sound? Whatever it is, like the pile just like where the hell did that go? I swear there was one here yesterday. So
I have seen that happen.
have you?
Yeah, with those big steel piles, they'll drop like 2 or 3 feet
Like in what? Yeah.
over a day. Like you come back the next day and they've
just
sunk.
Really?
Yep. Because
Crazy.
they didn't take a soil sample deep enough.
Yeah. So interesting. Yeah, I would think like I'm no geological engineer, soil sample tester, site guy, whatever. But I suspect that if
Don't let that slow you down. Get after it.
I suspect that if you hit a certain torque on the screw pile, it's unlikely to like
Well, that's your test, right?
go. Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like
If it torque to the right
it's a
torque,
quantifiable number that like,
doesn't
it's
matter
good.
what you hit, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So interesting. I have heard stories of guys say that while they're driving the screw piles, it's like they're going and all of a sudden it's just like it kind of like fires through something, hits a void, whatever. But as long as you get something solid again on the other side of that. Premium Yards and Garages says episode 100 topic: pros and cons of steel. I hate this word
Because I can't say it.
because I can't say it.
Can't read.
Saisons. Saisons. Caisons. I only ever hear that word. I never use it. And Quigley Cabrel says, in Wisconsin, commercial requires soil testing for concrete, not for residential. What are your intentions with this pile?
Yep.
How long do you plan on being on this earth? Yeah, so there's some additional testing required there. So, okay, that's it. Episode 99.
Shut it down. We're at 58.
Tune in
Next
next
one's
week.
the big one.
100.
Don't miss it.
100.
It won't be live.
Are you coming?
Nope. Me? Was that a question to me? Nope.
It's done.
There's what's done is done.
Oh yeah, did you count the time on this one?
I didn't, but I
started
just remember now that we had to hit that to start that. So, anyways, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're getting close to the end of the season here, so we're gonna be pumping out some more content up in there pretty quick.
Here it comes.
So tune in. See you next week.
Sweet.
Hey, thank you for listening to the Ultimate Deck Podcast. Now you know what we're about. Check the site, come and shop. UltimateDeckShop.com. Hit us right away for sponsorships or tell us if you want to collaborate. Let's go. Check us out on any social networks. Thank you for listening.